Rashida, thank you so much for joining us today. You guys are coming in with a really interesting project, and I'm positive that our discussion will be very insightful. How's your Friday been so far?
Yeah, thanks for having me over. The day has been great, and I'm excited to have this discussion with you.
Awesome, awesome, sounds great. So I'm gonna go ahead and start everything up. So starting off, I'd like you to give us a really brief introduction to the project and your role within it.
Yes, so Shrub is building a simplified DeFi lending platform. Our vision with Shrub is to be a first mover in the productization of DeFi lending to create like a simple, easy to use lending platform where users can press a button, borrow and lend without having to deal with the complications of variable rate, capital efficiency, rates changing on them, and things like that. So, what we are targeting really is what we are calling a crypto conservative. It's a interesting spin because obviously conserva- conservatives are all over the place in crypto. Just kidding. But the goal with this is to kind of target people who are not looking for a 10x leverage, but simply want to know that their money is in a transparent platform and they can get liquidity.
All right, sounds great. Pretty interesting. We're gonna get into some more detail on it later on. And what's your role in Shrub so far?
I'm sorry, I missed
Oh,
like
sorry,
what?
my bad. I'm saying a really interesting concept, and we're gonna get into some more details on it later. But what's your role within the project?
I am one of the founders.
Okay, awesome, awesome. We'll get to it later as well. So most of our loyal listeners already know that I'm always interested in hearing everyone's story in terms of how they got into crypto and Web3 in general. So tell us about your journey so far.
So I got into crypto in 2016 when Indian rupees and so paper, and it was a surreal moment. But I also said, "Oh, this is real, man. This can happen to anything," and that sort of motivated me to take it more seriously and think about it at a more philosophical level than just like a digital currency, stock, make money sort of thing. So yeah, so my roots in crypto are very much grounded in, hey, I see this as uh, freedom. I see this as a way to create a sort of world where free people transact with each other in in a way where their money is in their control because money is time. And since then, obviously the proverbial rabbit hole, I just kept on getting into it, and yeah, once Uniswap happened, that was sort of like my ultimate moment of like, uh, whoa, like this is it. When we get into the finance and we can create like these free systems, and I remember working, and then just like I contributed to Uniswap, I added a feature there, and I just could not roll back my interest from there, given my interest in UX. I think the very first time I just connected and I just was like, well, there is no username and password. That was like the ultimate thing for me. So here I am building Shrub.
Awesome, awesome, super interesting, yeah, super interesting story, and I really like your mindset. Actually, I tend to see crypto kind of the same. It's definitely a free environment. But it all comes down to education, right? As long as investors and users and basically everyone is well educated, I think it's a very safe. It's gonna be a very safe space in the future. Um, so I'd
Yes.
really love to know what made you want to start a project. So like, what made you think, let's go ahead and start Shrub? Was there a gap back in the day that you try to fill? Um, so how did everything work out?
So I would so I would say it the way I see life is, you have like all these dots and they connect, and at some moment you have these very strong uh, voices inside you that you can't like keep down anymore. So my I've always wanted to start a business, and I went to get my master's. I have an MBA degree, and there I got into an entrepreneurship track, and that's where I met my co-founder. And the last 10 years, we have done many projects, different scales and things like that. But everything had been sort of like side, you never had that, like, no, this piques my interest to a limit where I have to just do this. So I would say that I'm also an immigrant. I'm originally from India, coming to the US, establishing myself there, gaining all the experience and getting past my visa woes and all of that. It took time. And for me, even jobs have always have to have meaning, and the meaning has to be larger than just a paycheck. So I've always had like mission oriented sort of jobs, and uh, my previous company was a very good place for me. Once I saw its power to change the world and make a very meaningful difference in people's life. I had to work in a place where I felt like my abilities are going towards making this world better. Kind of
I'm sorry, Queen. I can't hear you very well. I think
and
you're cutting out a little bit. Here at the end, I've lost you for a while.
okay, I would say
I'm afraid that we can still not hear you. Might be an issue with connection. I'm not sure. It might be a Twitter issue as well.
reconnecting.
Oh, I think it's getting better now. Can you try and speak?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you better.
Is that good?
You were just cutting off a little bit earlier. I could hear like half of it. So up until the U.S. and how your jobs are always have a mission. So I heard up to there. Hey Queen, I'm not sure if you were speaking. I couldn't hear you. Um, let's just wait for Queen to come back real quick. Hello. It's okay.
All right.
We always tend to have some sort of connection issue or Twitter issue, so we're kind of used to this. Don't worry about it.
No problem. Continuing on. So
Mm-hmm.
I was saying that my jobs have always have to have like meaning to them. Otherwise, it becomes kind of very boring for me. And when BitPay happened, it was just a perfect company because I felt that my ability to code is making a true difference to the world. And um, and then 2020 came, and I learned a lot over there. We launched a ton of products. We made things that processed billions of dollars worth of crypto, and we made some of the early. And now it's sort of like a standard, but the QR code was really kind of one of the things that came out of our teams, the QR code payment systems back in 17. Now we see them everywhere. So I've been part of like some very early crypto payment systems and making them and the problems people have, and it was just very satisfying. And then 2020 came, and I feel like so many people I've heard and talked to, in fact, even so many founders started their journey in 2020. And I think it is no coincidence. Being inside the house and just being cut off from the world kind of gives people time to think, hey, what do they want to do? And I felt that I wanted to become a founder and create these products myself. I wanted to further the space, especially the DeFi space, and the confines of a company weren't allowing me to kind of explore that. So in 2021, I left my job to pursue my founder journey full time.
Nice, nice, really interesting. And I like the fact you got a strong background, especially crypto background actually, and techie background too. So, as a founder, what are some of the challenges that you faced so far, and from your experience, if you could give some advice to our audience on how to mitigate them?
So one of the challenges I would say being a founder, especially in the DeFi space, is there's just a the crypto space. There's just a lot of noise. There's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of like short term gains to be had, or like um, to keep your focus and being able to create something that's going to be long term requires a lot of like conviction, plus also a lot of research, plus a lot of keeping yourself away from the distractions. I would say it's especially true for the crypto space just because the products we make are also money. So I think there is a real the incentives can get skewed, both on the founding side, both on the user side, even on the investor side. So they kind of like have a principled way of leading and saying, hey, what am I out to create? Given the nascent space it is, not everything is figured out. You know, in a traditional Web2 startup space, you say, hey, this thing hasn't been done, or this idea isn't that good, I'm gonna just like redo it. In DeFi, the rails itself are being made. We don't know what the standards are gonna be. We are setting these standards. So you're gonna kind of like uh, keep your head as to, hey, what do we want to do? Like as Shrub, we've always set out to set standards. Our inspirations have been, like I was saying, Uniswap. Um, so yeah, that's challenging. Is to kind of say, where do I want to be in 5 years? Why am I making what I'm making? How is it like going to further the space?
Mm-hmm. Awesome, makes sense. Yeah, there's a lot of there's definitely a lot of distractions in our space, and I'm sure most projects are just going through a trial and error stage most of their life. Because like you said, we're creating the standards. There are no standards. Um, so you briefly mentioned earlier DeFi lending simplified. So could you just actually simplify DeFi lending for us in terms of what is it and what's its purpose and benefits?
So, just to give you a brief story on where the idea for Shrubland even comes from, I'll go through a story back in late 2022, 23, right? Yes. When the Celsius and BlockFi bankruptcy was going on, we felt very bad, and it was also the point where we had completed our NFT series, and we were saying, "Hey, what do we want to do next?" And we felt very strongly that that's not how things should be. There's something inherently very wrong with this, and we always tend to kind of like apply the first principle theory on creating anything, and then in the DeFi space, we're like, hey, lending is such a fundamental need that everybody does that, um, regardless of whether it's crypto or not. Crypto assets is a different thing, and now people have no place to go. There is no place that they can trust. The trust is broken, and we felt it doesn't have to be that way. We said like DeFi is in a place now, like 2 years ago, probably not. But the protocols that exist in DeFi now are battle tested enough that they have that time trust component to them. And it's a perfect rail because the users get the transparency, and that combined with creating simple products is where Shrubland idea comes from.
Nice. All right, thank you for this. So according to my research, almost 20.5 billion is locked in DeFi protocols, which definitely proves that the popularity of Shad's protocols has escalated by a considerable margin. So we discussed a few of the benefits that DeFi lending offers, such as accountability, speed, immutability, transparency, and many more. But it also poses some constraints, including uncertainty, because your funds are essentially locked in crypto. I mean, they could even be locked in stablecoins, but um, I'm not sure if stablecoins are as safe as fiat at the moment. So scalability is also another issue due to transaction cost, depending on the chain, obviously. And unlike banks, users take full responsibility of their assets. Therefore, the DeFi lending process requires tools that can prevent the possibility of human errors or mistakes. So, could you please elaborate on this in terms of how can we minimize these constraints, and what sort of tools can we offer to offer a more secure and stable environment for all users? Essentially, you guys are trying to simplify DeFi lending. So if you
Mm-hmm.
would like to elaborate on how you simplify it, how are you simplifying it?
Yeah, so I would say the basic idea with Shrubland is to not create yet another protocol from scratch. We believe the market right now is crowded with all sorts of protocols. New protocols are being built every day, new features are being added, new chains are being added. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of competition, there's just like a lot going on. There are many users in the DeFi space that are DeFi native. And when a DeFi native looks into the whole DeFi space, uh, capital efficiency and just like leverage and all these things kind of like pop up, right? So what we are saying is we don't want to create yet another platform that gives leverage. We are not targeting people that are looking for 10x returns. We are looking for people, we want to serve the niche where people just want liquidity
Think we've lost you again, unless you stop speaking.
Sort of. Oh,
No, we can hear you now.
yeah.
I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, so I was saying that our target is people who simply want liquidity from their assets. They're not looking for crazy returns. They want to put their money, they want to get the liquidity, and they just want to press a button. And they want to know that there is a way for them to transparently see where their assets are. And I think that's where, when I say we want to be the first mover in productization of DeFi protocols, I would say that is our belief, is like the next wave of DeFi product is going to be these productized lending products. We've already sort of like seeing that in the options platform, and we see like uh, if you look at project like Ribbon, it simplifies options, right? It's a structured product, but I think that's the beauty of it. Even in DeFi, people want simplicity. Now, building on top of these Lego blocks or these rails, protocols such as Aave is in itself. I mean, there is always risk in DeFi. It goes without saying. But we have also seen what happens in the traditional finance, right? Like what happened with the Celsius and a BlockFi and FTX. Like putting trust on a middleman has, there's no accountability, kind of like you're saying, there's no transparency. When we trust a contract, we can actually see what's happening. And that's where the the mindset has to kind of like shift. And I think with what has happened last year, it's already happening because a lot of the people who were the users of BlockFi Celsius haven't gone anywhere else because they don't want the complications of DeFi, but they're scared. They don't trust the traditional rails anymore where they have to put their trust on a singular person. So we believe like this is the inherent problem DeFi solves, putting users in control of their money, removing the middleman. And I think with the advent of AI, with the tech and the incredible speed with which development and enhancement and like the kind of things you guys are doing, audit firms and like reporting systems coming out, we will have this free market version of being able to assess as a user how much I can trust some protocol and put our money there.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I totally agree with you. To be fair, because I think most people actually cannot didn't really trust smart contracts up until I don't know recently, I'd say. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of lack of education on this on our sector, definitely. So as long as we start pivoting towards smart contracts and people, we slowly realize that smart contracts tend to be more efficient and more transparent than using a middleman. I think it's really going to take off. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think, see, really, when I say the productization of protocols, I think when we create these simplified products, that's when we can show the users, hey, you don't have to deal with a lot of complications. Even in DeFi, your process can be as simple as pressing a button. And what we are doing with Shrub is like we are able to provide like a 0% or a 1% interest rate to a borrower and a boosted yield to the lender, which isn't triple digit, but it's a 7% range. So if you are someone who has crypto assets and he wants to pay a bill, right? You can go to Shrubland, you can borrow at a 0 or a 1% rate, do what you want to do, and kind of like have access to that liquidity from your asset.
Nice, nice. That's pretty cool. I also wanted to add that people have also realized that really high APY rates and stuff are definitely unsustainable. So everybody's kind of looking for more sustainable protocols as we go through.
Absolutely.
So I recently read an article about how you've managed to build a solid community and basically the importance of it in the Web3 environment. I know that building a solid Web3 community is really hard, but what's even harder is to sustain it basically. So tell us a
Yes.
bit more about your community building story and perhaps give us some tips to like project owners and developers that are listening.
Yeah, so I would say that I did a very detailed blog post, which is probably what you're referring to a while ago on community building. And I would say when we started Shrub and we did the NFT series for Shrub, it's called Gardens, Paper Gardens. Um, our core idea there was to kind of come up with a way to pretty much sustain the growth. So when Shrub started, it was during the bull market, and the project almost sort of exploded overnight. And as founders, like growth is good, but when it's happening too fast, that's dangerous, right? And we as a team are very conservative in the sense that we want to we want to be here, and we want to be able to say, hey, that's the team who created Shrubland. So we are not in a rush. We didn't want to token drop. We didn't want to kind of like get into a lot of just short term boosting the hype cycle and all of that was going on there. And it was very, very hard given the environment at the time. So what we essentially did was we wanted to slow down, and at the time, a lot of followers, a lot of people that came into the server weren't necessarily there for our mission and our vision. And the big challenge we had was like, okay, how do we find like loyal fans out of, how do we build the Shrub brand where people are going to be patient and people are aligned with us on how we see or how we want to change the world, sort of. And NFT series is actually a very good way to do that. Uh, what we did is a very elaborate series, and really it's technically very neat because no one has sort of done that. It's a dynamic on-chain NFT series. So um, NFTs sort of grow on chain, and people can grow, see, interact with them. And then we created sort of like a very special, like options flavored contract that we called NFT tickets to sort of like create variable pricing based on people who had different roles in the server, and also do a sort of pre-sale. We on purpose kept a very small number for our NFT sale because we wanted it to be special. And the way it started is like we gave out Shrub seeds. Users bought a pot, and they would have to plant the seed, and they would have to like water it, and it takes months to do that. And then ultimately what you get is a shrub. And our goal with that was to showcase sort of like the company growth on chain as well. And we were like, hey, when we look back 5 or 6 years down the line, we want our story to be represented on chain. So some of the upcoming things that I would throw out there is like we are currently going through a rebranding phase for Shrub to again sort of like mark the growth of the company. And we would always have this series to show that, and people who played it loved it. It was a great way for us to interact with users and users to connect with us. And it's a very sort of personal thing, when you go every day and you water a plant. We try to keep it as close to growing a real plant. And plant again, because Shrub is a hedge, has a plant. The only difference is the plant never dies. But yeah,
Nice. That's a pretty
I am
interesting
just,
story, and I really like what you
yeah.
guys did with the NFTs. So could you just could you just repeat a few of the functionalities that the NFTs gave to your ecosystem essentially? Um,
So, some of the things that we did with NFTs is like we have various channels, and these channels have like access based on who owns what NFT, who has worked on getting a role for how long. And in the past, we have like drops rewards or NFTs or like price differences based on that. But our whole server is, I would say, very much role driven in the sense that there are many channels that exist that are only accessible to somebody who has a particular NFT. And before that, our roles are very, every role in Shrub is earned. And what we have done on purpose is like if you go to Shrub server, like a lot of the roles are all gray and colors are earned. So the harder you have to work to get a role, the better the color is to kind of make color special. The other thing we did with our server is like we kind of made sure that it's not too noisy. There are certain things related to the project that we do over there that are relevant to everybody. We try to not do ads a lot. Um, so it's very much like a quiet place. It's a place to come and interact with the founding team. We are very much active there. I talk to a lot of people one on one as well because to me that's one of the things of being a community driven project. You don't get that in Web 2, right? You sit behind the walls, like you're never out there in the front. But if we don't know our users, if we don't know their needs, if we don't know their pains, how will we build products for them? That's sort of like my thesis. So it's a very friendly place. And we try to like keep it very noise clean. Um, and over time we had to go through many things. But one of the things I have kind of like learned with Discord servers is like having too many channels itself can be very confusing for people, you know. So we generally keep most of our talks just limited to few channels, and most of the channels, if there's like some special thing going on, for example when we had sale related things or when we have like a access list, if we want to talk to people, we create these templates that we just kill later on.
You made a really strong point comparing Web 2 with Web 3, especially I'm talking about the community side of things. And I really believe that Web 3 is gonna unlock a new wave of perfect products when it comes to users, just because most of them are just community driven, right? And unless you know what your
Mm-hmm.
community wants and basically your audience, then how are you gonna make the perfect product? Um,
Right.
so super interesting. I love what you guys did with the NFTs. And last question, regarding the NFTs. You said that users can only acquire them by basically hustling for them, right? Like watering the plant and stuff. They didn't actually have
Mm-hmm.
to pay for them or mint them or how did this work?
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to do was back in the days when we conceived this series, we realized if we do that in Ethereum, it's going to be just extremely expensive. So we sort of like created two things. Like NFT tickets actually also solve the gas problem. However, the series is in Polygon, and at the time now Polygon also has some like very high quality NFT series at this point, but back then there was no series that was like technically very classy and high quality. So we were kind of getting tired of just NFTs being PFPs. So we wanted to explore and kind of showcase that hey, even NFTs have these like inbuilt feature where there are co-creation possibilities and can be really leveraged as a way to build a brand, to engage with the users, and to like create sustainable communities over time. So with the Shrub NFTs, you can buy a seed, but pods aren't there in circulation. There is a marketplace for the assets, but many people aren't like selling the pods. And sort of kind of that was our idea with the series also. We wanted it to be for Shrub users. We wanted people to kind of be proud of owning a Shrub, instead of like buying it to flip it. So initially we gave out like 2,000 seeds, and all of them were claimed. But with pots, we said, hey, we want those who are going to stick with us and who are going to ultimately be our long-term users. So that's our like shrub holder crowd, is people who have worked many months to grow the shrub with us. Plus, also, I would say one of the things NFTs also do, or like doing series, is like that for community building. What it does is, look, we have built trust with people that, hey, we are not going to rug pull. We are not running away with money, right? Because trust is also such a big component in DeFi, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. 100% it is. Yeah, like I said, I love what you guys did with the seeds and the whole, you gotta water your seed and everything, water your plant to grow and stuff. Just makes the whole community building aspect stronger. Um, so we've had a really insightful conversation so far, and I'd like to close it with a question about your future plans and perhaps any dates that you expect everything to be established and live essentially.
Yes, so we have built a prototype. It isn't public yet. We are building a MVP right now. So the dev team is working very hard to create that. Some of the things that the community will see in not too long, not too distant future would be the rebranding and the new logo. Our design is amazing. It's looking great. We are gonna do a story for that, and just kind of like the whole evolution and the process of that. So we'll see that the website doesn't say very much right now. It's simply a wait list. We will probably like start talking more about the product in the months to come. And I don't want to put any date right now because it is going to be a multi-month effort, and it is an important project, and we take security and very seriously. So the next phase is most likely will have to be auditing and getting our contracts audited and stuff like that before we get to the beta for Shrubland. So yeah.
Nice, awesome, guys. I wish you best of luck with everything, and I really respect the fact that you're taking your time with it, and you're not rushing things down, and you're paying a lot of attention to security as it's really important nowadays, with so many exploits and hacks we see around daily. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
joining us, Queen Bee, and let me know if you've got any other inputs or discussion points that you'd like to stand on.
Sure, and thanks for having me over. I had a great time.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll get to have another space. Perhaps in a few months from now when you're gonna have a more established platform.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. Best of luck, and wish you have a great weekend. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye.